How's it going, everybody? Too Spooky here. To start 2019 out with a bang, I figured we should revisit an old classic by counting down 50 facts about Trigun. This video was suggested by these lovely people right here, so thank you so much for the suggestion, and I hope you enjoy this one because it's going out to you. One of my first videos last year was also a collaboration with another YouTuber, so as it's long overdue for another collab, I figured we'd bring on my good friend over at Anime Balls Deep. Before we get started, I just wanted to warn you that both of us are likely going to mispronounce a thing or two throughout the video, and this video will be full of information surrounding the Trigun series itself, the creator of said series, along with things related to the series outside of the series itself. So with all that out of the way, let's jump right into it. Number 1. Trigun was created by Yasuhiro Naito in May of 1995, where it was serialized in Shonen Captain until 1997 when the magazine itself was discontinued. Due to the fact Trigun was still going strong, it found its footing in a different magazine called Young King Hours, where it would remain until its completion in 2008 under the new title Trigun Maximum, ending with a total of 117 chapters if you count both Trigun and Trigun Maximum as one entity. Number 2.
Yasuhito himself was inspired to write manga at a pretty early age. Although he would only pursue it as a hobby until his late 20s, the manga and comics that inspired him during these times were works such as Tensai Bakabon, many different works such as Leiji Matsumoto, and many of the artists found in Shonen Sunday, and Katsuhiro Otomo, who created works like Akira. And yes, I butchered every single name there, please forgive me for that.
Number 3. Like we mentioned, Yasuhiro would pursue manga as a hobby in his early years, and throughout his time at university where he majored in media studies and minored in social science. After graduating, he would go on to sell apartments for Seikusi House, which he would do for over 3.5 years. Soon after this, he would then decide to quit his job after a mixture of stress and not having any time to draw manga, which would then push him to pursue manga as a full-time job. The decision to quit was also easier for him to make thanks to his recent success with his first published one-shot, which was based on the game series Samurai Showdown, also known as Samurai Spirits in Japan. Number 4.
Yasuhito was able to get Trigun published thanks to a friend of his in the publishing industry, who helped him submit his Trigun one-shot to Takuma Shoten, which would end up turning into Trigun serialization only 2 months later. This same publisher friend would also be the one to help Yasuhiro set up a meeting with the same anime executives to begin talks of the anime adaptation. So needless to say, Yasuhiro owes a lot to this particular friend when it came to his eventual success.
Number 5. When it came to the transition from Trigun to Trigun Maximum, Yasuhiro made sure to hone in on the fact that Maximum is not a sequel to Trigun, and is instead just a direct continuation. He felt a lot of people may have interpreted that differently due to not only a different title, but also the fact that Maximum began with a 2-year time skip. However, the truth of the matter is, the new title wasn't his decision, but rather his new publishers. The new publishers originally wanted to pick up Yasuhiro for a completely different serialization. However, because he left Trigun without a conclusion, he insisted that they let him at least continue the series to its intended completion, which thankfully they allowed him to do, with the only condition being that they give it a new title. So all things considering, he got off with a pretty good deal. Number 6.
When it comes to the original end of Trigun and the beginning of Trigun Maximum, it may have been a bit confusing for readers at the time. This is because originally Trigun ended with the defeat of Dominique. Then in Maximum it suddenly cuts to a 2-year time skip with the little mention of the previous events. At the time, Yasuhiro himself didn't exactly know what he was going to do for the events in between the time skip, but he did have a vague idea about Vash hitting the moon. So as he worked on Maximum's story, he eventually figured out how he wanted to tell the remainder of the story before the time skip, and completed it shortly after, essentially meaning that for a short time, the events between Dominique's defeat and the 2-year time skip were just left blank.
Number 7. Trigun would then go on to get an anime adaptation in 1998, which was produced by Madhouse. Interestingly enough, the anime actually first began production before Trigun Maximum was even serialized. Its original run would be from April 1st of 1998 to September 30th of the same year. However, it unfortunately failed to gain a huge audience in Japan during its original run. However, in early 2003, when it was broadcast on Cartoon Network in America, it ended up gaining a huge cult following. And because of the amount of American fans supporting the series over the years, a Trigun film called Badlands Rumble would eventually be released in 2010. Number 8.
After Trigun's completion in 2007, Yasuhiro would take 2 years off before starting his next serialization, which is called Blood Blockade Battlefront. Try to say that 10 times in a row. It began serialization in April of 2009 and is still ongoing to this day. In 2018, a collection of Yasuhiro's one-shots were also released under the title of S-Flight. These one-shots each consisted of a different story, and to give an example of one, we have A Christmas Heart, which is about Santa Claus' granddaughter becoming Santa due to Santa himself fading away at the lack of believers. And with a comment from Yasuhiro himself, we learned he originally meant for this particular one-shot to be a picture book. The one-shots featured in S-Flight were all created from 1989 to 1997.
Number 9. While keeping up with the Trigun Maximum manga, Yasuhiro also helped create 2 video games called Gungrave and Gungrave Overdose respectively. He was responsible for creating and designing the characters of the game along with the story to accompany them. The first game came out in 2002, while the sequel came out in 2004. In between the first and second release, the first game also received its own anime adaptation in 2003 by Madhouse Studios once again. Number 10.
Before Gungrave was a thing, there was supposed to be a Trigun video game based on the manga called Trigun The Planet Gunsmoke, which was unveiled in 2002 at Sega's Game Jam video. The only footage of the game is a 20-second video clip of the unveil which shows some of the characters in the video game form. But after this announcement, the game was never heard of again, and Gungrave came out shortly after, so it's assumed Sega dropped the Trigun game or completely shifted its attention to Gungrave instead for whatever reason. When asked about Trigun's game, Sega's only statement was, "No comment."
Number 11. When it comes to the Trigun anime, if you're looking for an accurate manga adaptation in terms of story, you're unfortunately out of luck, because the Trigun anime is actually over 60% filler compared to the manga. This is mainly because of the transition from Trigun to Trigun Maximum, meaning the anime had to shift its story around to not only introduce and develop the characters, but also bring the story to a fitting conclusion. About 40% of it is still canon to the actual story though. In addition to that, the Trigun anime will likely never be continued due to the way they decided to end the anime, as it wouldn't make sense to continue a story with the ending they decided to give it. However, even so, there's always the slight chance that Trigun will get the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment in the coming years, and focus on the entire manga story instead of trailing off into its own thing. Yasuhiro and Satoshi Nishimura, who directed the anime and the Badlands movie, have also displayed interest in another movie and a new anime, but they also mentioned how it was up to the producers and not themselves. So like I said, there's always a chance in the future. Number 12.
Speaking of the anime being mostly filler, the anime actually starts before the manga as well. The events that happen in the first chapter of Trigun don't actually appear in the anime until episode 5. In addition to that, the only canon aspect of Trigun Maximum present in the anime occur in episode 18, where we are introduced to Vash after the time skip. The anime takes a completely different turn from the manga after this.
Number 13. In the volume release of the original Trigun manga, we got a little bonus with the original Trigun pilot chapter. In this chapter, we got to see a different view of what Vash was originally supposed to be like, which, for the most part, isn't too far off from the goofy Vash we ended up getting. However, this one was slightly more ridiculous.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
What's even more interesting than this would be the fact that the anime actually adapted this one-shot into an entire episode, which was episode 4, Love and Peace. So the famous Vash quote, "Love and peace," is actually pulled straight out of the original one-shot. Number 14.
In volume 1 of Trigun, Yasuhiro added a little bonus commentary about himself where he informed us of his toy collecting obsession, further expanding on the fact by letting us know he's actually an executive of a hobby company that collects and sells various American toys. So right from that, we know he apparently has his own side business in addition to the manga. However, he then continued by praising Todd McFarlane and his company McFarlane Toys for making such quality figures, to the point where he expressed his interest in getting Trigun figures made of his various characters, though he then also joked that he wasn't getting any toys made and it's only something he could really dream of doing.
Then, at some point after this, Yasuhiro's dream actually came true, as a Vash the Stampede figure was at one point distributed from McFarlane Toys. So the moral of this fact, dreams really do come true. Number 15. Speaking of Todd McFarlane, Yasuhiro is also a big fan of Spider-Man. And if you didn't know, Todd McFarlane was one of the original creators of Venom, and one of the artists responsible for the Spider-Man comics. The reason I bring this up is because Yasuhiro is also a big fan of Venom, and actually based one of his characters after Venom. That character being Monev the Gale, which if you didn't realize, Monev backwards is Venom. Number 16.
When it comes to the earlier action scenes in the Trigun manga, many fans found it hard to follow as many of the actions happened quickly or very intricate. However, as the story progressed and Trigun went further into Maximum, it became easier for most people to follow the actions taking place. Yasuhiro blames these early issues on the fact that it's sometimes hard to put his thoughts onto paper, right? For any of us, we all have that problem, as he can easily visualize how the characters are moving, but applying that to manga isn't always the easiest thing to do.
Number 17. In terms of how Yasuhiro went about writing manga, he did everything in 6-hour intervals. So he would draw for 6 hours, sleep for 6 hours, draw for 6 hours, maybe think and write for 6 hours, and repeat. Because of this, he also breaks down his days and due dates in 6-hour intervals. Basically in terms of how many 6-hour periods do I have before the due date. And whenever he happens to have a day off, he goes out and buys a month worth of toys to feed his addiction. Number 18.
While it's not known to the public how many copies Trigun has sold, we do know that it is significantly more popular in the West, which is odd for most manga. For instance, when Trigun original manga was first released in America following the anime's success, the first release of 35,000 copies sold out in no time, and it has since been reprinted numerous times.
Number 19! When he originally came up with the idea for Trigun, Yasuhiro stated that he never intended it to be more than just a short story, which centered around the idea of having someone in a world where the problems were solved with guns and violence. But instead of outright resorting to violence, the character would instead try to solve the situation peacefully by apologizing, and seeing if that would by chance solve the problem, which of course it wouldn't. The more he thought of ideas and situations to revolve around this philosophy is when he started developing a longer story for the series, and the rest is history. Number 20.
In episode 1 of the anime, we were introduced to the Dekorutos, otherwise known as the boomerang mohawk guy, right? However, when it comes to his manga counterpart, his introduction ended up a little bit differently. First of all, although he appeared in the first episode of Trigun, he didn't appear in the manga until chapter 7 of Trigun Maximum. Secondly, instead of introducing Vash through exposition, he instead gets completely bodied by the remaining gung-ho guns, so basically, he fucking dies.
Number 21. Out of all the characters in Trigun, Vash is the one that Yasuhiro relates to the most. In general, Yasuhiro thinks that every character he creates projects a certain aspect of himself. But when it comes to Vash, the two of them are the most similar. Specifically in the fact that Vash represents his determination and his childish side. Number 22.
When asked about the language that is spoken on the planet Gunsmoke, Yasuhiro stated that the language spoken there is actually English.
Number 23. When it came to designing Vash's signature revolver, Yasuhiro apparently had a little bit of trouble coming up with the design. He wanted it to be cool, yet effective and dangerous. The original design apparently didn't have any practical way to reload, so one day Yasuhiro was studying up on guns and thought about what it would look like to have the gun barrel turned upside down. He then thought it looked pretty cool and just kinda went with it, and once again, the rest is history. Number 24.
Wolfwood's iconic crossgun is named the Punisher, and rightfully so, of course. I don't want to mess with this dude. There are also apparently 10 of these weapons in existence, being wielded by the best members of the Eye of Michael. Another thing to note about the Punisher would be the fact that in the anime, the sides of the weapon open up to reveal 8 pistols. However, later in the anime and in the manga, the sides instead hold the ammo for the built-in gun.
Number 25. In the anime, Dominique the Cyclops is the only female member of the Gung Ho Guns. However, in the manga there is a second, named Elendira the Crimson Nail, who is considered the Lost 13th and also the strongest member of the group. Number 26.
One of the concept designers that helped out on Trigun stated that his basis behind creating the angel arm design was to make it look a little more feminine looking, because the angel gun was supposed to create matter. Therefore, because females create life by giving birth, he felt that feminine design would be appropriate.
Number 27. In the anime, it was mentioned that Vash is 131 years old. However, in the manga, his exact age was never mentioned. and it's instead believed that he's over 150 years old. However, his birthday is also unknown. Number 28.
While it's common knowledge that Knives and Vash are twins, we find out in chapter 35 of Trigun Maximum that Knives is the older of the two, as he refers to Vash as little brother.
Number 29. In the manga, Wolfwood generally refers to Vash as Tongari, which translates to spiky head. To keep the spiky hair insult gag running for the anime, Wolfwood instead calls him Needle Noggin. Number 30.
Millie comes from a very large family, something that I can relate to, whom she writes to monthly with what she has dubbed the Millie Monthly. In this monthly letter, she addresses her siblings as big brother, little big brother, big little brother, little brother, big sister, big sister, big little sister, a little sister, and this is the song, and I'm gonna talk like this. What the hell?
Number 31. Wolfwood is actually slightly taller than Vash, specifically by only 2 centimeters. Vash is 180 centimeters tall, and Wolfwood is 182 centimeters tall. Number 32.
Although they've had plenty of time to be around each other and develop a bond, in the anime, Vash only referred to Meryl by her actual name only once, which was at the beginning of the episode alternative. However, this was also only in the English dub, and when it comes to Millie, Vash didn't refer to her by her actual name even once.
Number 33. The band 4 Year Strong has a song called Vash the Stampede, from their first full-length album, It's Our Time. The song meaning itself could very well not be about Trigun, but based on the lyrics and how they relate to the series, I think it's safe to say they're likely related. In addition to that, the song is actually pretty darn good, so maybe you should go give it a listen. Number 34.
For more music trivia related to Trigun, one of the singers from the band Mushroom Head used to frequently wear Vash the Stampede coat while performing. However, this coat was apparently stolen from his dressing room at some point, and he never bothered getting another one.
Number 35. Wolfwood's Punisher weapon apparently weighs over 100 kilograms, which is equivalent to 220 pounds at least. It's kind of a miracle that a seemingly lanky guy like him is able to not only carry it around everywhere, but also point it straight out to shoot for extended periods of time. However, this is apparently possible due to his incredible sense of balance. Number 36.
Contrary to popular belief, Legato was never actually a member of the Gung Ho Guns. This misconception comes from the fact that he appears to lead them in the anime, but in the manga, he is never directly associated with the group at all.
Number 37. Vash's favorite food is donuts. Number 38.
In the anime, Wolfwood is apparently in his late 20s, specifically 26 to 28 years old, while in the manga, he's 18 to 19 years old. This makes his anime counterpart a little bit creepier, if you know what I'm saying, considering Millie was only 19 and they basically porked. However, I guess since they're both consenting adults, right, I let it slide this time, and no, FBI don't open up this time.
Number 39. Jeff Nimoy, who voiced Nicholas D. Wolfwood in the English dub, has mentioned that he originally auditioned for Vash. However, because the producers thought that his voice sounded like a smoker's voice, he was offered the job for Nicholas's voice on the spot instead. Vash's role would then later be filled by none other than Johnny Yong Bosch, who you might recognize from his roles as Lelouch from Code Geass or Ichigo from Bleach. Although at the time of his Trigun role, he had only been voice acting professionally for a few years, so he was still just an up-and-comer. Speaking of Johnny, he recently reprised his role as Ichigo in the fan animation of Bleach's final arc episode 1 over on Retro Rhino's channel. So if you haven't seen it yet, feel free to slap that card in the top right hand corner of the screen and check it out. Number 40.
As an interesting piece of world building, the anime and manga have their own fictional units of measurement, such as yars instead of yards, aisles instead of miles, and even the double dollar instead of just $1.
Number 41! Apparently, Trigun gets its name from the fact that Vash carries 3 different guns. His revolver, the gun in his prosthetic arm, and the gun from his angel arm. Number 42.
Although most of his characters aren't based on anyone in particular, Nicholas D. Wolfwood was based on Tortoise Matsumoto, who is the lead singer of the Japanese rock group Ulfuls.
Number 43. In a magazine interview, Yasuhiro mentioned that Legato likely has a younger sister. However, he doesn't know if she's supposed to be alive or dead. Number 44.
The D in Nicholas D. Wolford's name actually means, do you want that D? I'm joking, but it actually has its own significance in the fact that it stands for Doko no Kumi Noman Jawa Rasuma Kinshi Teshi Zume Toroka Kora. Hopefully I pronounced that right. You don't want to know how many takes I took for that, but I'm not even kidding. That's actually what it stands for. When translated, this name is apparently supposed to mean, what the hell family do you think you're from? I'm gonna tie you up in red meat and dunk ya.
Whoa, hold up a second there, my guy. Now that I'm seeing it, Nicholas D. Wolfwood, Monkey D. Luffy, Marshall D. Teach? I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think we just figured out what the will of D stands for. It's just a really long and stupid name. Case closed. Take that, One Piece theorists. Number 45. The final episode of the Trigun anime was supposed to end up a little bit differently. In the original draft for the final episode, it was apparently supposed to conclude with a second wave of Earth colonists arriving from the sky to land on planet Gunsmoke. All the while, Vash then meets with a vision of Rem, who ends up taking him away to end the episode. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm glad they changed it because that would have been an awful conclusion. Number 46.
Vash's angel or planet heritage was revealed much sooner in the manga than in the anime, specifically in chapter 9 when he was still on the sand steamer. In fact, the plants that were barely touched upon or explained in the anime actually physically contained angels, which is why Vash was able to control it for a short period of time.
Number 47. There's a somewhat popular fan theory that Rem may have actually survived the crash along with Knives and Vash. However, she remained separated from them until her eventual death. The potential evidence for this comes from when Meryl described her grandmother, and just the fact that she holds some resemblance to Rem in general. This would also make sense with the possibility that Meryl could be her granddaughter or great-granddaughter based on her age. However, it also probably isn't true because Rem would likely be dead by now or before Meryl was even born, so I'm not sure how Meryl was able to meet her. I don't know, it's a thing, I just figured I would throw it out there, boys. Number 48.
So you guys have got the general idea throughout this video. We've mentioned how Vash is an angel or a plant. Well, to go over what exactly a plant is, as it was expanded upon much further in the manga, basically the plants are considered a higher being that were created and harvested by human race in hopes to be used to make life easier on planet Gunsmoke. The reason they were harvested is because they are capable of creating food and water, along with pure energy to help humans for whatever they need. Most of the humans on Gunsmoke aren't even aware of their existence within their containers, but these plants are trapped within the light bulb looking domes across Gunsmoke. When it comes to Vash and Knives, they are also plants. However, they are different in the fact that they have their own free will and can survive outside the container. This also means that both Vash and Knives are capable of using their plant powers at any time. However, for whatever reason, Vash rarely does unless he's forced to. But the moral of this fact is basically Vash isn't an angel and instead is just a plant.
You may have noticed that there's this random black cat that appears at least once in every episode of the Trigun anime, and even some of the manga chapters. Well, this black cat is called Kuroneko-sama, which translates to Lord Black Cat. The cat itself was confirmed to be female by Yasuhiro, and when it comes to its conception, Yasuhiro has mentioned in the past that he originally designed it for one of his earlier manga ideas, which he later started adding to the Trigun manga as something calming to draw after a big action scene, but also adding it as a way to make fun of himself at the end of some of the chapters. So a little something fun you can do while watching or reading Trigun is a little game I like to call Spot the Cat. Now the moment that you've all been waiting for, number 50.
Trigun is actually available to watch for free on YouTube if you guys didn't know, and it's thanks to Funimation, so shout out to them. And as for some reason, if you're watching this video and you haven't seen Trigun yet, well, what are you doing, lad? What are you doing? Go give it a watch and maybe give it a rewatch if you haven't seen it in a while, because I've been watching it. I think it's fantastic. I think Vash is in one of my top 20 best characters of all time ever created in anime, and thanks to the Spookster for letting me be in his video today. And you know, if you guys don't know our channel, Anime Balls Deep, go check it out. He'll put a link. You know, he won't do me wrong like that. This is a great collaboration. Woo! And I'm pretty tired, and I don't know what to say. Brandon, you need to take this over.
But there you have it, everybody, 50 facts about Trigun. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and hopefully you learned something new. If you did, make sure to drop the absolute fattest like you possibly can. While you're at it, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one, and comment what series or characters you'd like to learn about next. Drop a follow on Twitter at 2SpookyTube, pick up some merch if you want to further support the channel, and before we go, don't forget to support my boys over on Anime Balls Deep. They make lots of great anime content, ranging from a bunch of different series, and if you enjoy my content, you'll likely love theirs as well. So be sure to go check them out. They recently hit 400,000 subscribers, so huge congrats to them, and a special thanks to them for helping me out with this one. Now, without further ado, if you cannot get enough anime content, well, be sure to click here for 10 facts about Bakuman, 50 facts about Code Geass, or 101 facts about My Hero Academia. Thanks for watching, see you all soon with a new video.
Ulfult. That sounds weird.